Hello and welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default. I'm Demosthenes, and with me today is the mighty Kyle Nash. How's it going, Kyle?
Hey, listen, man, I'm feeling good. I'm ready to do this episode where everybody find out what it is that we are the god of.
Well, with the name of Demosthenes, I think the name literally means vigor of the people. So I am the god of the people. Please send all your charitable sacrifices and donations to me. And Kyle, you can have some of them too. You know, I share. I'm a merciful and generous god.
I don't know about money, but will you take wadded panties?
I don't know if this is that kind of show, but well, that came. What would the name of the god or goddess of wadded panties be?
Pantocles?
Pant. That sounds quite legitimate. I'll be honest. Well, um, beyond the epic story of Pantocles,
It's funnier when you say it.
today today we'll be talking about Thor Ragnarok, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, got a whole load of names: Kate Blanchett, Carl Urban, and of course Jeff Goldblum, being Jeff Goldblum, directed by, I'm gonna say this correctly this time, Taiki Waititi. Taiki Waititi. I think I got it right. Um, it
Okay, go ahead.
Well, for the five of you that are still with us, today we'll be discussing whether or not Thor Ragnarok is the best Thor film. But before we dive into that, let's talk a little bit about our perceptions of the original two films.
But listen, man, I'll lead with the Dark World first because I listen. I don't remember a whole lot about it, honestly. Now, I'll say this: the villains, the Dark Elves, that concept as a villain was pretty tight. It held kind of that second place ish among Marvel villains, which is still technically pretty mediocre behind Loki. But since then, we've had some other Marvel villains that have done the level. Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming, for example, has put in his hat in the ring to compete for best villain in a Marvel movie to this point. But I think the consensus on Thor: Dark World is where I sit is it's probably the least. I don't want to say the worst because that implies it's a bad movie, and that's the thing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is one hell of a chain, okay? And the saying goes, your chain is only as strong as your weakest link. What Thor Dark World proves to me is that is one strong ass chain because despite the fact this is air quotes, and again, not a better way to describe it, the worst movie, it is still pretty damn solid. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it when I saw it. Just don't remember a damn thing about it other than the elves and maybe Loki allegedly dying, but not really. We don't really even know. As little as I remember, what I do remember is having a good time while I was watching.
For a series that has done, and Ragnarok is the 17th film, 17 films. Geez, it took the Bond series 50 plus years to get into the low 20s, and Marvel since 2008. Wow. Um, but I mean, it's had a consistent basis of quality. There are a couple of bad eggs, and for me, Iron Man 2 and Thor: The Dark World are the two weakest links in that chain. Uh, Dark World is arguably the weakest compared to Iron Man 2. Uh, I'd rather watch it though because it has, for all its negative attributes, it has about 30 minutes in the middle where Loki and Thor team up that are quite enjoyable, mostly because of Tom Hiddleston's performance and his ability to deliver even the weakest lines with a sardonic twist. The original Thor, on the other hand, I quite enjoyed. I think it is underrated, very much so. I like what Kenneth Branagh did. I liked the the wonder of the world that he created. The spirit of Asgard has never been quite matched in any of the other films. it is very much a fantasy film in its own right, a legitimate, well done fantasy film. Now, when they get to New Mexico, I normally don't equate New Mexico and fantasy, but hey, in a sense, um, the juxtaposition between the two,
In a sec-
um, yeah,
Mhm.
is an interesting one. I more or less I was meaning my derision, and that's too strong of a word, but is more so for how the story unfolds once he gets there.
People are gonna say that Thor was boring and almost kid-like, like it was a children's movie. Um, I see what they were getting at when they say that. But see, here's the thing that you got to remember: whether it's Iron Man or Thor or any of the early MCU movies, they did not have the advantage of being able to take the risks that they did. Okay, anything after Guardians of the Galaxy, which confirmed at that point, we can do some whack ass stuff. And that was successful. At that point, Marvel was allowed to take a lot more risks. Thor did not have this advantage. And yet, was still amazing. And Demos, you point out the beauty of Asgard. I got to tell you, of all the places that had to look fantastic, Asgard was the one. And if Asgard was not successful in doing that, it would have been a complete bore and disappointment, and actually a very easy for it to be a black eye on the entire MCU itself. But they delivered, to your point, and delivered big on the way that Asgard looked. It's stunning. It's beautiful. It's everything you hope it would be. The costuming is always vice tight. The costuming, not just the buildings and all this other stuff. Dude, uh, I'm not, again, Thor isn't my favorite movie, but that opening Thor movie is really good. And to your point, most underrated. That's an episode we can have, and we would certainly talk about that film. Absolutely.
I would also add that if there's one of the other issues I had with the Dark World is that the Asgard in that film felt diluted
Right.
compared to the original. It lost that color, lost that wonder. Now on to the main event, Thor Ragnarok. We're gonna get into spoilers about halfway through, but Kyle, what were your initial impressions of Thor Ragnarok?
Dude. Okay. That's all I got. My initial impression was, dude. Okay. And I'm gonna go back to the point that I made about risks being taken, and Thor Ragnarok does it to a T. Oh, okay. So basically, like Kyle said, we already did Guardians of the Galaxy. The only thing we're missing is a dude with a blue robe and a long white beard that says "Higgitus Figgitus, motherfucker." Okay, that's all we're missing. So hey, we might as well give Thor his ego back because he's a developed character, and we know that deep down in his soul he is worthy of Mjolnir. Mjolnir. I like making fun of his hammer's name. Within the first, I'm gonna say 60 seconds, and that might even be high, of screen time into the actual movie post credits, I'm like, this is an effing Thor film? Where are all these jokes coming from? Like, you forget. See, that's the thing. As somebody who has a big ego, when you have a big ego, you're more self-aware of things than normal, which in my mind leads me to understand why this movie has so many goddamn jokes in it. It's wonderful because he's so self-aware and making comments about things that he thinks is witty, but then because he's so cocky, gets himself into situations that are naturally funny. The banter's insane. And speaking still to the comedy, bro, I had no idea the apartments.com guy would be such a great villain in any movie. Props to Jeff Goldblum for the Grandmaster performance all the flipping way around. And dudes, we know that Thor and Loki are brothers, and if you didn't, you know it now. The banter here is like the other ones were like, "Oh, you're my brother and I hate you, but I still like you. Oh, you're adopted." Dirk and Dirk. They made some jokes that made you laugh. This tied the goddamn knot here, and just the whole thing with I'm not doing get help. Get help, please! My brother's dying. Get help! Help him!
Oh, classic.
Still hate it? It's humiliating.
No, not for me, it's not.
That was awesome.
I'm going to use a line that you frequently say in our required viewing episodes. I get it. I cannot disparage anybody who enjoyed the hell out of this film. It is an enjoyable film. Just by pure chance, and I wasn't planning on it, I saw it twice in theaters over the weekend. Once for my review, and then once with a few friends. And I enjoyed it equally the second time around. If I was invited, I can honestly say, if somebody invited me to go see The Dark World, unless it was a date, I would not have gone to see that again. Um, it it's a very fun. I can list out quite a few pros. I do have some issues with it. It's insane to me that it is the most well reviewed Marvel film up to this point.
I can't get behind that either. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get behind that. But then again, for people that are saying that, and there are people that are using that as any kind of defense, the Rotten Tomato system takes, if I give a movie 2.5 stars and it's mediocre, and I give it just a little bit of an extra nudge in a positive direction, that's viewed as a positive review. And you can take a movie that's slightly above average, and suddenly it gets a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think that is indicative of this is the greatest movie of all time. If the widespread consensus is it's above average.
Sure.
But I think that one of the things that this film, obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy tone and feel is all over this film's DNA. This is the best Guardians of the Galaxy film that's not a Guardians of the Galaxy film.
If that is a genre, but okay.
More or less. I like that they didn't fall into the trap of trying to, and I know there was some issues with Natalie Portman in the studio, but behind that, I think it was a very smart move to get away from her and Kat Dennings in the second film. They were already struggling to keep that character relevant to the plots by really throwing in one of the biggest coincidences in cosmic history, where she randomly ends up with the ether. Okay, so they got rid of some of the low points of the early films. It was lighter in tone. The scope was definitely bigger. Them spending most of their time not on Earth was a big plus. I mean, you're taking a character that is from this extraordinary world, who's always talking about the 9 realms and so forth. It's about time that we explore those a little bit in a little bit more detail. The portion with Thor on Sakaar, the garbage world, with facing off against Jeff Goldblum and, surprisingly, the Hulk, were the best parts of this film by far.
Among them, absolutely. And listen, we talked about apartments.com being a theme. I know, spoiler alert, kiddies, the Hulk is computer animated.
What?
I know. Your life is ruined. No, but listen, man, that interaction between Chris Hemsworth as Thor and the Hulk is among one of my favorites lately, involving a human and a thoroughly computer animated character, and just some of the banter going on there, and they actually have heartfelt moments, man. I don't look. I'm not going to break into tears right here on the screen, but the whole part where you get into the Hulk's head and how he actually kind of realizes it sucks to be always angry was some badass stuff, and a part of that character that I don't think many people would have ever really considered. Because listen, I don't know about you, but when I get mad at something, when I'm done being mad, I'm tired as hell. And I can imagine why, Chris Hemsworth ends up with Hulk, who's just sitting in a damn giant hot tub all naked and stuff. Which was very comically done, by the way, too.
I could have done without the Hulk ass. Spoiler alert.
I thought that was very tastefully and fun, hilariously done. That made the moment more real for me, because then when he walks back, for beyond a reasonable doubt that Thor just got a face full of Hulk dong.
You have to think about the fact that somebody went home from work and he talked to his wife or husband, and They say to them, "Oh, honey, what'd you do today?" "Well, I spent all day crafting Hulk's gigantic ass. I Hulk ass crafter. That should have been in the credits." Some other things I really enjoyed about the film: the visuals were excellent.
Yes.
The music, the retro theming of the film, especially when they get to Sakaar, perfect on the nose. I liked Chris Hemsworth in this film. I like the fact that they did use some of his natural comedic talents to the extent that they did. He was naturally very funny, um, and for once, this is really the first time that I've seen Thor where that character didn't have to rely on colorful supporting characters like Loki or even Hulk to make him interesting. He held his own. I liked the use of the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. I liked the fact that it wasn't just used in the trailer just to be used in the trailer, that it was used effectively in the
Yes.
film. And if you're familiar with the lyrics of the song, it does have a Viking influence. So it made sense. It's actually quite surprising that they hadn't used it up until now. But when they do use it, it's effective. And the opening scene is probably it's appropriate that they did this before he loses it, and that's not really a spoiler. Happened this is the beginning of the film, but probably the most creative use of the hammer in a battle in any of the films, including the Avengers.
All right, class. Spoilers, bitches. Spoilers. So we already talked about Hulk. Guess what? You do see Banner here, and he's I know him from work. It's pretty great. And the piece were like, no, you like Banner better. No, him with the numbers and the thing. No, you like the Hulk better. No, it's Hulk smash this all the time. No, it's too much. But that was so goddamn money in itself. And I about just screamed like a little schoolgirl when they did the Doctor Strange cross in there, man. I was digging it like a damn shovel. Hela as a villain, frankly, look, folks, the only thing that made this villain a little dangerous is she kind of came off to me as a little overpowerful. But I get that's what you had to kind of do. And listen, Kate Blanchett, no shock here that she does a great job. Certainly in the running for top villain in the series. I think I'm with you. I still think, as far as within the story, the Vulture is a better villain in Homecoming. The Vulture is far more developed, and so therefore, right, and Loki by default may still hold the top villain, what's his word, spot, but it's because we're a lot more familiar with him too, right? So, in my opinion, Hela's complete low gaff about everybody else. Like, you can't touch this. I'm fucking Hela. That sentiment was clear, but she was still entertaining. She had that same arrogance in a dark way and was still able to make jokes like her younger brothers. It was definitely funny. And I forget his name, which is kind of a crime, but it's the comic relief guy that's made of rock in the arena.
Oh God, what was his name? He was actually played by the director, Taiki Waititi.
He was an excellent, sure, he was a device to kind of move things along, but he kept things entertaining.
The best villain in the film, at least as far as an antagonist in the film, was Jeff Goldblum.
Hurting because I was going to go after you
on. He is by far the best antagonist in the film. Thor, the Ragnarok. I think one of the issues that it has is, to me at least, is it feels like two very different movies that are kind of shoved together. You have more of the light-hearted dynamic. I mean, everything on Sakaar is a story in and of itself,
right?
Beginning, middle, end. And Jeff Goldblum is terrific. I mean, yes, he's playing an exaggerated version of himself, but god damn, is it entertaining.
He's still the apartments.com guy, but as the Grand Master, so somebody knows what his name actually is. Listen, man, if we're going to get in the battles of the better antagonist in the movie, you're going to win outright. But I don't think you put him in the discussion of Marvel villains because, in my opinion, he simply isn't. It's like putting in the Collector or something like that in the villain list.
He captures a hero. He melts people who defy him. He cheats to make Thor lose. He basically captures people and forces them to fight gladiatorial combats to the death. He's not he may be entertaining and funny, but he's not a good guy.
And neither is Deadpool. But look, man.
Yeah, but Deadpool doesn't capture people for and into I like that. The one part is like, I don't like the S word. It's workers without pay or something like that.
Prisoners who perform tasks much better.
Yes. Exactly. So I mean, yes, I would categorize him as a villain, but antagonist is something we can both agree on. He is far more well developed and far more the rivalry between him and Thor is far more interesting than Hela, because Hela isn't very well developed. Between her opening and the closing scene, the only time you see her outside of some of the action scenes where she's taking over Asgard is she's cracking wisecracks, and she's expositing to Carl Urban, who's character of Scourge, if I remember correctly. And
right.
Carl Urban, terrific actor. I love him. He is, if there was one actor from the Star Trek films that I feel nailed it, it was him as Dr. McCoy. The spirits of DeForest Kelly. He is, of course, he was also Judge Dredd. He's a fantastic actor with a lot of range. And in this film, outside of a couple of funny scenes, both in one of them involving a shake weight and his guns.
Yeah. Did you catch? See, there's no way you caught this. Okay. And listen, I don't mean to get on your case like this, because first of all, when you do try to talk about football, all we hear about is the Giants. So there's no way you caught this, right? Now, where did he get his M16s from? Do you remember?
Oh, the Texas.
Texas, which is funny. I loved that. That was great. His M16's names are Dez and Troy. And when you put them together, they destroy. That's all funny enough if you're not a football fan. But then when you're also a football fan, you realize he landed in Texas, which also has a city known as Dallas, which has a football team with two major players in the franchise's history. One of them currently playing there is Dez Bryant, and other in the franchise's history is Troy Aikman. Bruh, don't tell me that's there on accident.
If anything, it's a fantastic in-joke.
And hey, listen, as the guy with the sports stuff on and in the back wall, if I don't point it out, I'm failing in this arrangement. I'm just saying.
And I'm the one who's surrounded by Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy posters. But
well, don't feel belittled now, you son of a. JJ Watt is a god.
Thor is a god.
And he would lose to JJ Watt every time. You don't understand.
So I mean, so getting back, Carl Urban, terrific actor, and the problem with his appearance in this film is it feels like he's only there. I mean, he's given a character arc that anybody can see coming 30 miles away.
Sure.
But he's basically there just so Hela, Kate Blanchett, has somebody to talk to, so she can reveal all this backstory. And it's kind of heavy-handed. It's not done as interesting as it could have been. Honestly, it really does. Like I said before, it feels like it's almost two different films. Thor going against Hela in and of itself should have been an entire movie an entire movie. It had the drama, it had the pathos, it had everything it needed. And I see what they did. I see what they tried to do. And for the most part, they get away with it. All right? But the two different tones are not very compatible in my mind. When you're facing an ending where, extreme spoiler alert, the planet, his entire home, half of its population, the entire planet's population is on a tiny ship by the end. She's killed the entire army. She's killed everybody. She's willing to have women decapitated in the streets. And by the end of it, the entire world explodes, not a second goes by and they're making jokes about it. The humor goes, and I love the fact that it's a humorous film, but it goes to the point, it goes so far to the extreme that it undercuts the drama at hand. It's so desperate to entertain that it pretty much sacrifices its drama.
I see something to that. I really think that there was a conscious business decision made to lighten up the fact that the whole goddamn Asgardian nation was damn close to being a victim of genocide by way of Ragnarok, which was basically a satanic looking being, man. I can see how they're trying to kind of sway away from that gravity a little bit. Sure, it took away from the drama. You aren't wrong. I'm saying it's calculated that way. Whether you like it or not is a completely different question.
Calculate for a business decision? Yes, I very much agree.
Right. You don't like it, but
the humor works best when it comes organically from the scene or organically from the character. One of the reasons Jeff Goldblum is one of the best characters in this film is it came organically from that type of character, and it didn't step in to, like, when he didn't step in to overdo a lot of the dramatic moments. That wasn't the purpose of his character. But then all of a sudden you're having the world exploding, and it hasn't even exploded yet, and the Rock guy is making a joke. Oh, the foundation's so good. Bam. Oh, I guess not. I mean, in the original Avengers, when New York is getting destroyed, they're not making foundation jokes about the crumbling buildings. It's a serious moment. It's treated seriously, and that's why it has impact.
So you're back to that place where you're comparing a movie pre-Guardians to post-Guardians.
Yes, Guardians was very, very jokey as well. And obviously that's the tone that they applied to this film. But Guardians knew...
dropping everywhere, you know.
Yeah, but Guardians knew when to pull back and let... The original film knew when to pull back and let those dramatic moments seep in. The comedy in that film did not overdo itself. And yes, even in some of the darker moments, they had comedy, but it served the story. I'm thinking more so the moment where he starts breakdancing to distract Ronan. Yes, it's a funny scene, but it has purpose. In this film, I think they overdid it because they tried very, very hard to entertain and hit that tone. And some of the times it felt very forced, and it came across as false. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I think there's other things around it that caused that situation. I don't know that was truly avoidable in this instance, in my opinion. And listen, man, like the Guardians of the Galaxy example is great, right? Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is walking around, look out, here comes my arrow. It's flying everywhere. They did something extremely dark, killing hundreds of people at the same time, arrow to fancy music. You thought it was the most funny scene in the movie. Now, here's the problem. Here's the reason why, in my opinion, this lands to you the way it does. And I could be wrong. It is your opinion. Because the stakes are raised so much higher, because you have to do that in a movie where the feature character is literally a god. If something like that happens, that epic, that's dark, and you see comedy, I can see why you get the reaction of taking pause. It's perfectly justified, in my opinion, for that reason, because the scale's that much higher. I'm like, all right, bruh. Can we stop the jokes? It was an entire effing planet.
I mean, I guess this is the point where we're going to answer the question of which is the best Thor movie. I'm going to let you go first. Which film do you think, out of the three, is the best one in this series?
Well, to me, the answer is obvious, and you're probably going to get it wrong. So I'll go with
bring it on.
Hey, you already got Rogue One wrong. Anyways, I had to make the Rogue One joke there. I had to. No.
Your opinion, man. It's all you, man.
Right. This is all opinion. So really there is no wrong answer, and I mean that wholeheartedly. No matter
Unless you think Dark World is the best. Then that's the wrong answer.
I agree. Anyway, good point by you. Well played, Demos. There is no wrong answer except for Dark World. Never say Dark World. No. I think so. Listen, I think the way I think simply on the strength of an unfair advantage, and I've made the Guardians of the Galaxy point already. Because you've taken risks and they were successful, you were able to make Thor Ragnarok without fear. And because that lack of fear existed, because we didn't have to waste time on exposition, although it was done very well in the first Thor movie, no question. So, and we even had a better opportunity to have tie-ins from other series, much more cool. Granted, the scene with Hawkeye in the opening Thor had its delight as well, no question there. Phil Coulson appearing in that beast like he does throughout the early portion of the MCU was fantastic. But dude, Doctor Strange getting tied in and the way Banner was there and all that. Listen, for my money, we didn't talk about him much, and it's good we didn't. The weakest thing in the Ragnarok movie was the Valkyrie. I just was not moved by that character as I should have been. But Thor Ragnarok is easily the best Thor movie. Demos, go ahead and get it wrong.
All right. Well, here I'm going to cheat a little bit. So,
son of a.
As far as which, for me, it's obviously it's between the first film and this film. Which one am I going to sit down and be more entertained by? Which one will I find myself watching more often, despite any, despite shortcomings, despite everything? All right, it's going to be Ragnarok. That's going to be the one I probably watch the most often. But which of the two is the better film?
I hate when you do this. And I'm not even going to imply you're wrong necessarily with this take.
The first Thor film is, I think, a stronger film. It has a better drive. It has a better ambition. It has heart. It has gravitas. Natalie Portman, as much as I like her as an actress, and Kat Dennings, as much as I'm annoyed by her as an actress.
I like the Kat Dennings character, though. Don't judge.
She's actually, in the first film, she's not that bad. I just couldn't resist the joke. If the original film hadn't set up its characters, especially beyond Thor, especially like Loki and so forth, so well, so dynamically, and so well written, and this is where Kenneth Branagh's more Shakespearean angle to it worked to not only this film's advantage, but to every other. I mean, the Avengers wouldn't have been as strong as it was if Kenneth Branagh hadn't succeeded by making Loki still undoubtedly the best villain in this series. Nothing up to now would have stood up as strongly. And I think that's something that a lot of people brush off and say, oh, Loki is great because he's funny. No. He's a much stronger character. And if anything, him being in Ragnarok and him still being as effective in Ragnarok, in direct comparison with how underdeveloped Cate Blanchett is, just shows how much better that first film was.
I'm not going to go that far, but what I do like is what I'm going to dub by you the foundation defense. And listen, man, if you're leading with that, your defense is indefensible, because if I don't have a good first Thor movie, I don't get a Ragnarok that's quality.
It's a good foundation until the planet explodes. I mean,
see what you did there? Now that was tight, but that's not funny.
Well, this was a dramatic moment between me and you, so I think I just ruined everything. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. This is probably one that I'm going to find myself going back to a little bit more. It's very, very entertaining. It's very, very funny. All the performances across the board are great. Yes, is it jokey? Yes, does it undercut the drama? Yeah. I mean, I just argued that for the last hour. But I think it's a film that will improve upon viewings. And that's something that I kind of discovered on my second viewing of it. Unlike The Dark World, where no repeat viewings help that film in the slight bit.
Yeah, Dark World, in my opinion, is mostly a missed opportunity. We'll leave it at that.
So yeah, that's it for today's episode of Default Assault. Make sure to visit hilaritybydefault.com for weekly movie reviews and more fun stuff. Tomorrow, I will be reviewing the remake of Murder on the Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh, yet again, Johnny Depp, Judi Dench, all-star cast. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Default Hilarity, Facebook, Hilarity by Default. Kyle, where can we find you?
Hey, listen, man, I had a fantastic time. This was a solid movie. We know for a fact that here at Hilarity by Default, we are the gods of entertainment. So damn it, leave a comment, and we'll work with you on that.
We'll accept your tributes.
That is correct. Your tribute and our celebrity are worth your time. Anyway, so that all being said, you can find me on Twitter where I will continue to spread my celebrity at the SOTG. And of course, you can find me on Facebook as the student of the game. You can check out my work covering the Knights of the University of Central Florida and NGSCsports.com. And of course, you'll also hear me alongside of fan of the show, by the way, Demosthenes, EJ Christian on the Earnestly Speaking Football Show. I'm a regular guest on there Monday night. And I even did a guest show with one Jason Fairman, formerly of Round 4 Sports, currently an NGSC Sports contributor. We did the NFL's midseason awards on the Earnestly Speaking Football show this week, too. So check all that out if you happen to be a sports guy as well.
And just remember, life is hilarious by default.